confuse fishing and catching. Catching is actually reeling in the fish, and fishing is what you do leading up to that.
Welcome to Maritime Moment. This is episode 7, and today we have a special guest, Fly Navarro, baby. Lucky number 7. This is Maritime Moment, sponsored by Right Air Marine. Guys, if you've been living under a rock and you don't know who Fly Navarro is, let me just tell you, he is one of the foremost leaders in the recreational tournament fishing, as well as digital social media gurus. So you're in for a treat this episode. But before we kind of dive into what he has going on, let's cover into the news. So not too long ago, we wrapped up FLIBS, which is the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show, and man, was it a show. Informa did a great job putting on the show during the COVID conditions. And boy, did I tell you, the people that were there put on an absolute masterpiece. They had the healthcare restrictions in place. They had the temperature checkings, the all of the metal detector and all that stuff. Basically,
They had the mass police.
They had the mass police. If you were drinking a little bit too long and you didn't have your mask on, they were on it, man. Those guys did great. But that being said, the people that were there were buying boats. We talked to a number of dealers, and we had a bunch of interviews that we did with Maritime Moment. And everyone had the same thing. The people that were there were the serious buyers. And then luckily, here we are 40 days later going into the holiday season. My family, Lisa's family, our circles, we are still happy and healthy. And I think it was a great thing that they went on and did it for the city of Fort Lauderdale, but more importantly, the boating industry as well, because that is our absolute Super Bowl.
I agree with you, Art. Lisa Overing here with Art Hill and Pierre Perrier and our guest Fly Navarro. Julianne Rains is on assignment this morning. Pierre and I and Art were at the boat show 4 of the 5 days.
Yep.
And we are here to report we did not catch COVID. We did not catch a cold. And the people who were there were glad to be there. It was very hot. Mm-hmm. And we had some people hating on us.
For sure.
Having a boat show, much less going to it. And we are here to tell you that Fort Lauderdale and Florida has found a way to do business safely. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. And I'm not sure what the news reports, but you're looking at 4 people now who are at the boat show. None of us caught anything except a good time.
Right? So
absolutely,
that is true. And I will say that, with that, all that being said, they did go ahead and cancel the Miami boat show. That boat show is still canceled, but nonetheless, the Bahama Charter Show is still going on in February. The Dubai boat show is still going on, as well as my hometown, the St. Petersburg boat show will be starting January 14th through the 17th. So we would love to see you guys there in person. Mask on, but man, we're going to be full speed ahead on the boating.
I think we're finding out that some of the boat shows that had issues before COVID, Miami Boat Show, there are 3 of them that would go on simultaneously. And since they changed the location, it's been much more inconvenient for the yacht show, and getting down to Virginia Key for the production vessels is problematic. So I think that the trend we're going to see, I think we're going to see more digital marketing. I think we're going to see more online, but you can't replace a boat show with a computer. You can whet the appetite, you can get a lot of information, but this is a product that people want to, they want to board the vessel, okay? And I think that the strong shows, I think we're going to see some consolidation. And I'm waiting to see what's going to go on in Palm Beach, which has become most people's favorite show of the year. The weather in the end of March, during Art and my birthday on March 24th.
March 24th. That is true. That is true.
Parking, you can see the whole show in one day if you try. It's just lovely in Palm Beach, and that's where you're based, isn't it, Fly?
Correct. It's my hometown, and it's a 15-minute drive. It is my favorite boat show. I like it because it gives me more hands-on.
Right.
At Miami, I was once they moved it to Virginia Key, it just made it multiple days. You have to go multiple days if you want to see more than one location. Fort Lauderdale's always been great because of the international flair to it. People come in from all over the world. It's usually the end of a lot of the fishing seasons, so everybody's home for that, leading up into the holidays. But Palm Beach is just nice. Like you said, the weather's good. Getting ready for springtime, Bahamas, going away, whether you go up north, you go to the Caribbean, whatever you're going to do. And you really can take time. It's one of those things you can see somebody and take an hour and sit down and talk with them, as opposed to, listen, I'm going to give you 10 minutes and then I got to run.
Right.
That was one of the things that was really important for me at this boat show in Fort Lauderdale, was seeing people. And it's actually, the genesis of why we created Maritime Moment, to keep our different marine communities connected. It started during the quarantine, but now it's become more popular than ever. And regarding the show, one thing that we used to see at the Fort Lauderdale show with Guy Harvey and with other fishing enthusiasts was more hands-on learning demonstrations. And I know Art has looked into your book and has a lot of questions on how you're helping people learn to fish and sharing your expertise.
That is true. I would say, with all this being said about how COVID has impacted um, the boat shows, I would say there's no better person to talk about how it's impacted fishing tournaments around the world as well as domestically than Flyer. And can you give us just a quick kind of rundown of what exactly, or how COVID has kind of affected the tournaments, as well as what the hell is Catch 2020 and how can people get a copy of that book?
So, as most of my tournaments, most of my events are international. I have tournaments in the Seychelles, Dominican Republic, the Bahamas. I have 2 global tournaments. I have the Around the World Blue Marlin World Cup. I have the Around the World Swordfish Tournament. I also have a tournament in Saudi Arabia on the Red Sea. And I've since just signed a tournament up in Okinawa, Japan, the first ever all release format. And there's COVID's done a lot of things. And I was talking about it yesterday. If I'm going to look back at 2020, even with all the craziness, 2020 has been very good to me and my companies. It's forced me to sit behind this computer and use my resources. I've used social media to promote myself, to promote my events, and to promote fishing across the world. And now, because of that, we've been able to spin off. I think I said it this morning. I was talking with somebody. I've actually launched 5 new companies because of COVID. Now, mind you, a lot of them are in the infancy stages.
Mhm.
We've put all our resources into these new companies, and we're leveraged against each other. So one of the things that you brought up was Best Catch 2020. I was asked to be interviewed for somebody's book, and as I was talking to the publisher, they said, "Man, you should write a book." And as much promotion as I do, the one thing that people confuse what I do with what they think I'm doing. They think I'm trying to self promote, and I'm the guy behind the camera. I'm the guy in front of the camera. I'm the guy pressing the share button. But I'm not trying to promote me. I am promoting the sport. And if people are confused and I've had people, you're just self promoting. Listen, If you want to jump on the plane and travel 250,000 miles a year, you're welcome to. I don't mind. But when I was being interviewed for this book, they said, "Why don't you tell your story?" And I'm like, "I don't want to tell my story. Um, I'd rather tell the story of our industry." And the best way to tell that story is how we as an industry put on events. And uh, since COVID started, let's talk, when we talk about COVID, I use that March 12th date is
Right.
when a lot of countries started shutting down. I just so happened on March 12th, I had me and my team down in the Dominican Republic finishing up a tournament, and we got the last flight out of the DR.
Wow.
And it was when all the tickets and everything, you showed a flight that was 50% full. And when we got to the airport, there was standing room only because it was the last flight out.
Hmm.
So um, it affected a lot of people. And there were, at that moment, there was a lot of tournaments that had to cancel, postpone, change. And as I started seeing this, I said, you know, if I'm going to put the effort and the resources to talk about fishing, let's talk about how these events, just the same way you were talking, Lisa, about the Fort Lauderdale boat show, it happened. They pushed through and it happened. Well, there's a lot of these tournaments, they pushed through and they made it happen, and some didn't. Um, and in our world, and I my world was or is the offshore market. It's the
Mm-hmm.
offshore fishing market. So a lot of the big tournaments, the big rocks, the White Marlin Opens,
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about tournaments that they focus on going offshore and catching the biggest fish. And there is a social aspect to it, but the most important part is the people going offshore and fishing. But there's a lot of tournaments that don't have that offshore component.
Mm-hmm.
Their component is the social aspect of it. And the inshore, the bass fishing, the trout fishing, a lot of those tournaments took a hit. And I wanted to take the opportunity to highlight those tournaments in this book. So what we did was we highlighted the top 60 tournaments in the Americas. We took the top 60 tournaments in offshore, the top 20 tournaments offshore, top 20 tournaments inshore, and top 20 tournaments in freshwater. And we have tournaments from Seward, Alaska, down to Salinas, Ecuador, and we have tournaments from Maine down to Trinidad and Tobago.
Wow.
And we have blue marlin, sailfish, white marlin tournaments. We have wahoo tournaments, dolphin tournaments. We have a flounder tournament, halibut, salmon, trout, carp. We have a bow and arrow fishing tournament, which is a huge growing sport. We've added somewhere between 12 and 13 million new fishermen since COVID started. So we have these new fishermen. How do we retain them? And there's no guide. There's no guide in our industry whatsoever. It's and luckily for social media, you have the capability of uh, finding what you want. Well, I wanted to create something where it kind of it's not a big sliver, but it's a sliver. It's kind of like a slice of pie where it has a little bit of everything in it, and shows people where they can go if they want to look at it. If you're in Iowa and you're into ice fishing, if you're in Kentucky and you want to do bass fishing, if you're in Missouri and you want to do bow fishing, or if you're into the offshore stuff and you want to go down to Costa Rica or you want to go to Salinas, Ecuador or Puerto Rico, there's some great history and tournaments. Here locally in West Palm, which is home for me, I put my local fishing club. They have a tournament that's been going on for 83 years. So
Wow.
that's some great history. And um, I'm a bit of a historian of our sport. I want to know the people that came before me. What did they contribute to the sport? What can I contribute to the sport? I have no children. I've never been married. So if I die tomorrow, what is going to be remembered? I don't have kids to remember me. So I figure I want to put all my time and energy into my sport. I want to make it better. I want to open up the doors to new people. So with these 12 million new fishermen, how do we retain them? Fisher people. I mean, there's girls, guys, kids. I have a plethora of mentees that I've been working with for, holy smokes, 20 years. One of my mentees, he's 11 years old, and I was just talking to his mom this morning. He's got a 4-year-old brother that that is already starting to fish. So this is the new generation. What are we doing as a community to give back to make sure it's easier for them to enjoy our sport? And in the state of Florida alone, it's a $119 billion a year industry, recreational fishing. So what are we doing to make it easier for the new people? How are we giving them the resources to go out and find other fishermen to go out and fish? And one of the young gentlemen in the book, his father, I met up with him this morning because he wanted me to personalize his book. And I've actually put him together with other kids his age on social media that are following me. And his father's like, man, thank you. He's created this whole network of friends through the entire state of Florida. And it's a big deal now at this age of 13, 11, 14, where you can't drive. But you know what? When they're 16, 17 years old, they can jump in a car and drive 2 hours north and go fish a new inlet because they have a friend that they've had for 2 years.
Yep.
And that's created because of the fact that I took the time to introduce them. And who's doing that? Who's doing that for the next generation? And you know, me growing up, I had a lot of people open doors for me, and I want to return the favor. And I do it for I just get great pleasure out of watching that next generation. I'm looking for who's going to replace me.
Right.
I mean, I'm at the age where, listen, you got to help the next guy to replace you. And I don't want to be, I don't want to steal a line from Don Lemon. I don't want to be the grumpy old guy that says, "Oh, these young kids." No, I want to see these young kids. There's a young lady here in town, part of the West Palm Beach Fishing Club. She's always winning the junior angler program. She's a great fisherman. What are we doing to help them? And to me, that's really important. So that's why I wanted to do the book. That's why I agreed to do the book. At first, I did not want to do it because my business is all about the digital space. I build everything on the digital space. So if it can't grow exponentially in today's world, it doesn't interest me. But when they proposed it to me, hey, let's you can talk about anything you want. I'm like, let's talk about the industry as a whole. How can we help people? And that's when I agreed to do it. And because of COVID, a lot of tournaments either got canceled, and I would say 15% of the tournaments in the book, somewhere between 10 to 15%, either didn't happen or had a revised version.
So what tournaments are you looking forward to in 2021?
What tournaments am I looking forward to in participating or creating?
Tournaments can our fishermen look forward to participating in?
Oh my gosh, there's some great ones out there. This ice fishing series, I'm really looking forward to participating in one because I've never ice fished. The Pescadora, which we highlighted in the book, it was the first ever all-female billfish tournament in Central America. Wow. It was a great tournament put on by
when is that in 2021?
I have to look at the dates. I want to say it is in March. I'd have to look in on the schedule on that one.
So Ecuador is holding tournaments right now and opening up. That's
Costa
terrific.
Rica is open. They're having tournaments. Costa Rica is open. Salinas, I was just speaking with the board members yesterday about when to buy my tickets to fly down. So it looks like, not it looks like, Ecuador is open. I know Argentina is not, because I was supposed to fly to Argentina next week for Christmas, and they are still on lockdown. I was going to go down and fish Patagonia for the holidays. That's why, in turn, I'm going to Colorado. So places are slowly. My connection in the Netherlands texted me this morning about Europe not being open. My tournament in Saudi Arabia is still not open. So the vaccine, and again, I don't know how your podcast rolls. I tried to skim over, but this is a big deal right now with opening of countries with the vaccine going on. I just spoke to my contact in Canada, literally 5 minutes before I jumped online with you guys, because I go to Canada for 6 weeks every year, giant tuna fishing. I put on, I do charters out of Nova Scotia, Canada, where we get people to come in and go fishing. And for me, it's a great content creator. I create content and help people because it's such an outdoor place.
I've seen your content from there, and it is mind blowing to see the size of bluefin tuna that they have, that you're basically hand feeding chums off the side of the boat, and it's like they're tanks. I mean, like, absolutely mind blowing.
My numbers when I'm in Canada go up by 400% every year.
I believe it.
Every year, my numbers, my social media numbers go up by 400% across the board in that 6 week time period.
Nice. I love it. All right, so let's get, I'll do the rapid fire if you want. Fly, this is the section of the show that we're just kind of run through. It's basically an A or B, and you can answer it as quickly as you want, or you can kind of dive into story, but we have a few questions here.
Go for it.
Are you ready? All right. Freeman or Invincible?
I've never ridden on a Freeman, but I love an Invincible. The most sailfish I've ever caught in Florida was on an Invincible. It was a 42 Invincible. We caught 58 out of 83 sailfish in one day. But I've always wanted to try a Freeman, so it's hard for me to say it. Okay. Next.
Live bait or artificial?
Live.
My man. Favorite place to fish?
Venezuela.
Why?
Oh my God, I lived there for 4 years, and it was like National Geographic's every day. Followed very closely behind with Nova Scotia, Canada.
Right on. Fly fishing or jigging?
I like fly fishing. I like jigging, but yeah, I'd have to say fly fishing, river style for trout, because I like the noise. I like the quietness and peace of Mother Nature.
Nice. So while docking, joystick or throttle?
Throttle. I'm old school.
Right on. Right answer, by the way.
These are great. These are great rapid fire questions, hey, by the way.
I got another one for you, and it's going to be a doozy. Braid or mono?
Wow. So I'm going to revert back to Lisa's statement earlier. Because, and here's the biggest thing, you can't answer that question. There's not enough. So if I'm bottom fishing, I'm going to go braid. If I'm any kind of snapper, grouper, freshwater, braid. But if I'm bill fishing, you want the mono, because you need the drag of the mono to fight the fish when they're doing all their crazies. People don't realize that. I did it once. I fished on a boat. They had all braid, and we hooked a marlin, and the marlin started jumping, and jumping at us, which is normal, and it's actually passing us. And because the braid has no resistance in the water, you felt like you lost the fish.
Mhm.
And the mono, where the mono keeps a belly in the line, the braid actually collapsed on itself, and there's no tension to keep the hook in the fish. So it does you a bigger disservice than a service. So it's all dependent on what you're fishing for.
Brilliant answer. Oh my goodness, that's great. What was your first boat?
What was my first boat? I still own it. My first boat, I have an 18-foot Master Angler, 1990 Master Angler. I've had it like 10 years now. But I took it to the boys at Merritt's to have them paint it. So I was working on the Reel Tide at the time, and I had them deck it out like a custom boat. But I haven't used it in over 4 years. I've been so busy.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
So the last one, what was your favorite place to fish? And I think we already answered that.
I said Venezuela,
Yeah.
my favorite place to fish. But you know what I guess you know what my favorite place to fish is? The next one.
There you go.
The next one.
Yeah.
Because I'm always looking for that next adventure. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I really am. I'm always looking for a new place. I love going places where I don't speak the language. I really enjoy, and this is a very something that people, it's hard. And it took me a little bit of getting used to being on a boat where you're the only person that speaks English.
Mm.
You're on a boat, and I remember I was in Nagoya, Japan, fishing with a guy that I actually met here in the United States. And I went to Japan. He invited me to go fishing, and I knew really fast that nobody spoke English. So I said, I'm going to go jump in the tower and I'm going to just call out fish. And I learned how to say billfish in Japanese, which is kajiki. So whenever a marlin would come up, I'm like, I'm just going to call him out. What I learned very fast that I did not learn how to say was left or right. So when a blue marlin came up on the left long, I couldn't yell out left or right. So everybody had to look up in the tower to see if I'm pointing this way or that way. So I'm like, you know what? I'm doing a disservice to everybody because I can see the fish come up 3 seconds before everybody else, but I'm not helping you because you have to look up at me. I love that adventure of going places and people speaking Japanese or Chinese or Arabic or just a different language in general. And I love it. I love the adventure of it and going to countries and trying new foods. And I've been to countries where, and my rule is if somebody asks me to eat something, I'm going to eat it. So
even like the tuna hearts or the eyeball socket, like you go that far? Like
after my first, not my first trip, but when we put on the first ever international tournament in Saudi Arabia, my business partner was a member of a social club, and he called them up. It was my last night in town, and they roasted 2 lambs. They dug they didn't dig a hole, but there's a hole in the ground. It's lined with bricks. And they put this giant pot, probably like a 10-gallon pot, like a quarter of a way full with rice, put vegetables on top of it. And they put 2 whole lambs cut into pieces on top of this rice. And that was all on top of charcoal. And then they put the lid on it and put more charcoal on it. And they cooked it for 6 hours. And there was like 30 people there. They had this party for me because of the success of the tournament. And after they dug up the hole, they uncovered everything. They brought the lamb in, they put it on, and we ate on the ground. They put the plastic on the ground, and we're eating the food with our hands because that's traditional. And the chef speaks no English, and he starts cracking the brain of the lamb or the skull of the lamb, and they scoop out the brain and they pass it to me. And Lisa, great expression on your face. So I do not want to be disrespectful to the chef, to my business partner. to anybody there. So I'm pretending this is a spoon. So they hand me the spoon and I'm like, oh dear God. So I eat it, and really it tasted like a mouthful of bubbles. It wasn't bad, but that was my rule. My rule has always been, and listen, I've been to a lot of countries where it's heart, where it's fish livers, and I listen, I want to embrace the culture, and if you're doing it as an honor, I'm going to do it. So uh I eat the lamb brains, and I'm like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I ate it, and I look over at my business partner, and he's like, what do you think? I'm like, eh. I said, it tastes like bubbles. He goes, yeah, I don't eat that shit. And I'm like, then why did you make me eat it? And he's like, I wanted to see if you were going to do it.
Well, I tell you what, you did it out of a sign of respect, and I respect you for doing it. But I can tell you right now, I'm not eating no lamb brain. I'm not ice fishing in 20 below. Like, I'm Florida. Let's go catch kingfish, sailfish, whatever.
Here's the thing. I mean, that to me, and it's only to me, this is when I travel, I've used fishing. Listen, I'm the son of 2 immigrants from Cuba. Our idea of a family vacation was either going to the Keys for a week or going to New Jersey to see my grandmother. And I've had the greatest opportunity that I use my passion to open the door to the world. And the only way I'm going to learn is to embrace what other people do. And like, people ask me, hey, how many rods are you going to bring? I don't travel with fishing rods. I don't bring my fishing rods. I don't go on a boat and tell you how I fish. I want to go to your country. I want to go to your boat. I want to see how you fish. I want to learn how you do it, because that makes me a better fisherman, a better person, a better boatsman. So I am not that guy that comes on a boat and tells you how to do it. So I'll go to it. Now, mind you, if I go to a country enough, like when I go to Saudi and I fish with my business partner, he sees me fishing over here and he says, hey, that kite fishing looks interesting. I'd like to try it over here. Then listen, that's a different story. And I brought over all the kite stuff and we set it up, and he loves kite fishing now. But that's because he asked me. I do not go and impose my will on anybody. I go somewhere and I want to learn. I go to Australia and I learn how people in Australia fish. I go to China, I go to Japan. And if people would take that idea and say, hey, listen, I'm being invited to go somewhere, I want to learn, people would get invited more places and we'd all learn so much more. Now, mind you, it's different if somebody calls me up, I want you, or hey, listen, I want to hire you to come over here and teach me how to do this. Then that's a different story. But when I get asked to go places, I want to blend in. I want to learn what it's like to fish in Dubai, in the Seychelles. I want to learn how to fish in Malaysia, in India. And I want to sit there and take the time. And if it's with a cane pole, I'm going to sit there with a cane pole. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to listen, as long as it isn't dangerous, I'm going to do it. And if people are eating lamb brains, I don't think it's dangerous. It's just kind of weird for me because we don't eat it. But
at this moment, as we segue back to lamb brains, I would like to thank our sponsors, which not only include Right Air Marine, but Museum, Prilosec, and Pepto-Bismol. Okay?
Yes,
I can't. We're not. No, this is not the lamb brain show.
Wait a second. Wait a second.
And we're back with gizzards, and you're on the air.
You said Right Air Marine.
Yep. Right Air Marine.
Can I give him the sponsor shout out?
For sure. Let's go.
And this wonderful podcast being brought to you today by Right Air Marine. We could not do it without you guys. Reduce moisture and eliminate mold and odor on your boat. Very important. So thank you, Right Air Marine, for helping bring this podcast to everybody that listens to the Maritime Moment podcast. Also, Pepto-Bismol, Zantac, and Metamucil. I was coming up with some other ones. Perfect. I'm just making this stuff up as I go.
I love it. But that does bring us to the next segment that is sponsored by Right Air Marine. Lisa, do you want to do it?
Come on, Lisa. Don't be afraid. Jump on in there.
I'm not afraid of anything.
I know you're not. That's why.
Where do you want to go with it, Art?
All right. I would say let's just do it. Okay. So it is a new segment that we kind of came up with called Clear the Air. Now, Fly, this is, of course, sponsored by Right Air Marine, which is a unit that clears the moisture and controls the humidity out of the yacht cabins, sport fish cabins, frequently that you I know you've spent many nights on many boats throughout the world. And, you know, when you wake up in the morning, it's not always some of those sheets may be a little sticky, or they might have a little odor, you know. So Right Air Marine has a wonderful unit that can kind of eliminate that issue with a lot of the yachts.
Do they have a one size fits all unit, or do they have different sizes?
They do have different sizes, but the main one does kind of fit, I want to say, boats of many sizes, but it's more about the ductwork and the flow of getting the kind of the air throughout and kind of flowing through the cabins. So they do have like a few different sizes, but it's mainly how much ductwork will they have to do to go through.
And where can
larger vessels require more than one, like a mega yacht would require more than one Right Air Marine.
And where can people find this Right Air Marine product?
Well, they can find it on rightairmarine.com, and they can come to maritimemoment.com. They're our title sponsor all year. We love Right Air Marine.
So if you're listening to this podcast right now, go ahead and hit that MASH button and go over to maritimemoment.com. Check out the website, check out some other podcasts, and also check out Right Air Marine.
I love it. So with that being said, the Clear the Air segment is something that you want to get off your chest, or it can be the parting shot for the industry, something that you want to leave us with.
Oh, wow. You know what? And I'm not very good at quoting stuff from the Bible. But there's a passage that says, always help the man behind you, lift the guy up behind you. I'm a firm believer in that.
So in other words, a rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Well, it's more than that. It's, you know, the military is a big believer in, you know, when you get up somewhere, you reach back and pull that guy up with you. It's not necessarily a rising tide, because at that point you're waiting for somebody to lift you up. And this is not somebody or something lifting you up. You're talking about you're up there. Turn back around and help that person behind you. Lift them up to that next step. Help them get up to where you're at. I think that's very important, which it's something that I do and I live by every day, trying to introduce fishing to a new person. How can I bring somebody up? One of my mentors, my mentees, he FaceTimed me while we've been on this podcast. And I'm sure he was FaceTiming me to tell me what he caught because he was fishing this morning. And I'm going to give him 20 minutes of my time, and I help him out because he's new to it. And that's important. That's important, not just in industry, but in life. It gives life meaning.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that was a perfect way to end this segment. Fly, thank you so much for helping us out in producing this episode. I would like to thank our sponsors, Right Air Marine, as well as the plenty of other initial sponsors that we've had on our episode. Fly, let us know, where can they find the Best Catch 2020? How can they get their hands on a copy of that or find out more information about you?
So bestcatch2020.com is where you can get the book. But Fly Navarro, across the board, everything is Fly Navarro. You can Google it, Fly Navarro, or Fly Zone Fishing, or Fly Zone Outdoors, which is our new platform we're putting out. And like I said earlier, I answer back to everything. So if somebody's got a question, I try to help everybody. That's my biggest thing.
Thanks for tuning in to maritimemoment.com. Have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a Happy New Year. 2021 is going to be as good as we make it under these circumstances.
Amen.
Amen to that.
Let's play football. Let's have fun, and let's stay fishing.
Let's go fishing.
Let's go fishing.
With us. Have a good day. Peace out.
Thank you so much.